Good morning. You guys are doing fabulous. I am putting everyone in mute. And so hopefully you guys are doing fabulous. We're starting the class is 9:06. Thank you so much for everyone that has typed on the chat that you guys are here, that you guys are ready to go. I just want to recognize people that are here early, bright and early. Iris, Siriaida, Wendy, Araceli, thank you so much. Jonathan for being in class right now. Fabulous. Zoe, thank you so much. Thank you for being in class, and thank you for all the great work that you guys are doing. Guys and girls, you guys are amazing. And thank you so much for all the great work that you're doing. Thank you for all the students that are sending me your work every single day. It is so helpful. Thank you, Judy. I see you. Thank you so much. Thank you for being part of this online class. And thank you so much for what you're doing at home to stay safe, to be healthy in your mind. That is so helpful, and I just want to say thank you for all the great work that you are doing. I know that many of you are having some challenges. I know that many of you, right, are don't know what to do. When are we going to go back to normal? And I can't answer that. I can't answer that. To be honest, I don't know when we're going to go back to normal, but it seems that some places are starting to open, and we should be careful. Right? We should be completely careful. I'm making this comment because I care about you, all of you, and it is awesome when you keep yourself safe. It's not what others tell you that matters most, is what you tell yourself, and you need to keep yourself healthy. Right? That's important. You need to keep yourself healthy. And so we're going to start this week. We've been working on Module 6 that has to do with math, and it has to do with geometry. Now, we're being very precise, and part of the goal that we're working with all of this week, the goal has been I can construct a coordinate system on a plane. In order to be able to construct a coordinate system on a plane, you have to be familiar with the vocabulary. And I went over that with you. If you could follow along, that's important. There are some of you that are just, starting to connect these ideas, which is awesome. It is never too late to really connect, and I want to make sure that you guys are really aware. Now, I'm going to use this so that as I point to this, you participate, okay? You participate. You say it out loud, right? You say it out loud, but at the same time, you also type it on the chat, right? You type it on the chat. So the line that goes left to right, the line or the axis, what is it called? Type in the chat. What is the axis that goes from left to right? What is that called? Type on the chat, okay? There are two axes. When we're talking about the coordinate plane, there are two axes. Thank you, Jonathan. You're right. It is the x-axis. Thank you, Chris. You're right. It is the x-axis. And I have it in color, orange, right there. Now, there's another axis that goes up and down. That axis goes up and down. What is that axis called? Type it on the chat. Type it on the chat. Excellent. Great. So the y-axis. So we have the x-axis in our grid. Initially, we started with a sheet of paper, with a clean sheet of paper that looked like this. There was nothing there, There was really nothing there. Yep, these are just some markings on the paper, but we have graphing paper. And then we put in the center. Who could tell me what is on the center called? What is that? What is it called here on the center? What is that? Type it on the chat. That's important. We're doing always review, and that is the origin. Okay, the origin of the graph, but it's also the point of origin. Great job, Edie. Thank you so much, Zoe. The point of origin. And so my students are here participating with me. That gives me great honor that you guys are taking it upon yourself to really be focused on what I'm saying. Okay, now let's say that I'm going to put a mark a mark on the graph on quadrant number 1, what is that mark going to be called? Right? It has a name. You could call it different things. So we got the point of origin, we got the x-axis, the y-axis, but when you make a mark on the graph, what is it called? Okay, so I'm going to, it's right now, you can see it in green. What is that called? It is called what is that called? When you make them, now here, I'm going to call that point A, right? Point A. No one got that, but you know what? It's all good. Point A. That is what it's called. There's another name for point A. It is also called a point A, or a coordinate. Boom. Thank you, Araceli. It is a coordinate. So first is the point of origin. That's where these lines, there's another word, where two lines meet is called what? This is a new word. I don't know if you guys know, but when they crash, the crash of two lines is called what? What is it called? They intersect. Write that down, please, on your notes. Where the two lines meet, they intersect, and they form, thank you, Zoe, they form perpendicular lines when they crash. They don't always, but when we're talking about the coordinate plane, the x-axis and the y-axis, yes, it's a rule. They always intersect. When we're talking about the x-axis, always runs left to right and up and down, y-axis, they form a perpendicular line. Great job, Zoe. So yes, they do, and they form a perpendicular line, which means how many degrees? How many degrees does a perpendicular line have? We've talked about that. We've talked about this, so I'm just creating my little, yes, again, boom. They form a 90-degree angle. This is called a set square, okay? This little item is a set square that I just created out of a regular sheet of paper. I'm using a Post-it note, and I can use small Post-it notes or large, but then I can use it as a ruler if I start to create, right? I measure it correctly, and then I add those little marks. What is these marks called? It's also marked, but it's called a hash. Okay, write that down. It's a hash. These are hash marks, not to be confused with hashtag. Hash marks. Okay, hash marks. Great. And so, yep, it's 90 degrees. It's also called a 90-degree angle. Is also called a right angle. Excellent. I really enjoy how you guys are interacting with me. I really appreciate it. You know, it makes me proud as a teacher that you guys are taking it. Now, the first coordinate. What is the first coordinate called? When you're reading, this is called a coordinate, but what is the first coordinate called? If we're trying to locate, let's say, how would I read? We already did. What are the coordinate points? What are the coordinates for point A on that right there? What are the coordinates for point A? Can someone write it down? Boom. 4, 7 are the coordinates. Yes, Araceli. Yes, Zoe. The coordinates are 4, 7, but the 4, what is it? Which axis is it? Which axis? The 4 is for what axis? Thank you, Araceli. It is the x-axis. Thank you, Zoe. And it is the x-axis. So the first coordinate always is going to tell you if you're going right or left. Right or left. In 6th grade, I'm going to show you what it looks like in 6th grade because I'm looking ahead. Right? I'm looking ahead. I'm always looking ahead. And here, for example, if this is above, this is going beyond, this is more, that I want you guys to think beyond fifth grade, what you might see in middle school. Now look, I'm going to give you the first point M. Can you find point M? Well, let's start with point R, because that's where we're most familiar. Can someone tell me what are the coordinates for point R? What are the coordinates for point R? Right? Well, there's point R right there, but what are the coordinates? The coordinates for point R are 4, 3. Yes, 4, 3. 4 on the X, and then 1, 2, 3 on the Y axis, and so that's where it is. Now here it's X and then Y. Now I'm going to give you a little bit more advanced. I'm going to just challenge your thinking. How about another one? How about S? Who could tell me what the coordinates for S are? What are the coordinates for S? What are the coordinates for S? Who could tell me? What are the coordinates for S? Okay, what are the coordinates for S? I have to look at the graph carefully. Mr. Castro says it's more challenging. What are the coordinates for X? Now, people are giving me answers. I wonder if they have it correct. All right, well, if the first coordinate, right, first we're going to look at the coordinate grid and said, all right, well, here's S. How do I know if, it's right here. So right above, it's a -7. So the first coordinate is -7, and the second coordinate is 5. Why is it not a positive? Why is it not a positive? Well, yes. So Janiqua, okay, it should be not a positive but a negative. You see this number? Yes, it's 7 away from the origin, but 7 negative. It goes to the left. Good job. So great job, Zoe, Chris. Okay, great job. Thank you for the answer, Janiqua. Thank you, Araceli, Iris, Sidiaida. Thank you so much. Jasmine, it should be -7, 5. -7 because it goes to the left and then goes above, right? All right. Boom. Right there. So on the x-axis is -7 on the comma. Then the y-axis is 5 because it goes up right there. Great job. Thank you so much. That's the advanced version, right? That's the advanced version, what you're going to see. And then this is called the first quadrant or quadrant 1. In the video that I included, there's a video that I included for you that you could advance. See that right there? I'm going to maximize. And so now I am creating, right? I am creating tools that you all could use, right? All of you could use these tools that I gave them to you. Right now, I want to thank, right? I want to thank Chris for being on the graph, Jasmine, right, for doing their part and making sure that you have your materials. Wendy, thank you so much. Also, Jonathan and Edis, right? Thank you so much for being on the graph. And so I'm showing you because some of you might not be following this right along. So I really appreciate that, okay? Now, I've included also on this graph, I've included the lessons that I taught, but I've included Ms. Acosta teaching the part 2 of the lesson 2. So if you get a little bit stuck, boom, right there. And then on Wednesday, I gave you a lesson that you needed to complete. And then Wednesday, I gave you an assignment on Brain Pop. And here's the audio. If you click right there, you'll actually hear me teach the full lesson. So Jonathan, make sure, thank you for letting me know that you were not going to be here. So I want you to listen to the lesson. If you get stuck, you don't have to, but you know it's a good idea. And here is also, I'm going to erase that because it's all the repetition. And so many of you that are doing the work, thank you. I've also included on slide number 12. It actually now, you don't necessarily have to go to YouTube. You can go to Vimeo, see where I got the video from, but you can also play it here. Look at this. You can play it within this, right? So you could be taking notes, and then now someone is starting to teach, right? And if you hear that, you'll be hearing how someone is teaching that. Okay? I'm not doing that. It's actually someone teaching, right? It's another teacher showing you the first quadrant, showing you 6th grade math. So that's kind of cool. Now I'm going to go to the next one. So if you do get stuck, for example, I was helping Brian. I'm not sure if he's on the call right now. I was helping Brian a bit. He goes, "Hey, Mr. Castro, I don't have the material." So I put it for him, and then I was help him, guiding him. If you get stuck, if your family has some challenges, you let me know, and I will do my best. Here's Mrs. Bright teaching. If you click right there, it'll go specifically to her video. Here's a little song, because now my class is starting to change, to include more of the musical stuff. And if you click right there, it'll play right there. It won't take you to necessarily to YouTube. You just go right there. And it'll actually go through the actual math. And so it shows you by using music and kind of engraving in your brain, so to speak, with rhythm and melody, a way that you can start to remember, right, how you're doing things. And here is also, right, I included, if you play, this slide is meant for you to play it, and you can see the different parts that I've been teaching, which one is the x-axis, which one is the y-axis, right? And also in Spanish, how you would say it, because we expect in our school for you to be bilingual, to be able to speak at times in English and at times in Spanish and get better. And so now I've included some points so that you can practice, right? Besides your homework, right, you can see it's playing, and then you go, okay, you can identify, okay, that's the x-axis, here's the y-axis, and now I can, boom, you could start to see, and you could even practice. Now, I didn't give you the numbers. Did you notice? I didn't give you the numbers. So then what you start to do is you go, oh, all right, so I guess point A is 6, 8. So they go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. And then 6 on the X. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, boom, 8. And then now you can put the hash marks on the graph, and then you would get, 3 plus. That's a coordinate plane, and you want to make sure that you label. That's what we're expecting for all of you to do. And those are the things that I'm making some changes. It's the best way that I can, start teaching you. And this is the book that I'm also following. If you can explain, right? If you can explain what the goal is. For example, here I'm explaining that graph points on the coordinate plane, right, can be used to solve real world and mathematical problems, right? We show you, in the past, we've shown our kids how to use maps. We don't do that as much now, but you can use it in the real world where you can apply, right? Here's where you live, your home, and then you would go, all right, so you'd go 6 blocks and then 3 blocks up. And then you would get to the park, and if you were following the instructions, boom, you would be able to get to that, right? And then we're going to start applying some of this stuff to, well, how do we create a graph when we have information? All right, so after this slide is what we covered last week, and so I just wanted to show you that that's available, right? What is something that I've included here. And I want you to play. I'm going to send this slide to your parents, and here you can play. I'm modifying some things. Yeah, you can go to Vimeo, but here you can play, right, the message that was sent by the. I'm not sure if I don't think you guys can hear, right, the audio, but it'll be able to play the wonderful video that teachers made for you. All of us participated in making that video. And so here, if you click right here, if you click right there on the icon, you would actually now I'm sending a message to your parents, which is said, hey, Mom, Mr. Castro sent you a message. It's a 17-minute message, to parents explaining them what I'm teaching you so that they are aware that you need to talk with them on a regular basis. If they get stuck, they can call me. They can use this also themselves to see what we're learning. So you guys are awesome. Gracias. Thank you so much for doing great work and for utilizing this. You can save it, make it your own. I think 2 weeks ago, Wendy transformed what she was learning through the class, and she put it on the Google slide. That would be a 3+ because she's creating her own materials and she's adding. She even uploaded her assignments here, which is just fabulous. Thank you so much for sending me your work on a daily basis and for giving me feedback. All right, so I'm going to take this off. I'm going to go back over here. Now we're going to start working with the homework. So we did a great review session. Thank you so much for participating. Now, let's go on to Lesson 6, all right? Lesson 6, here we go. Lesson 6, all right. Let me clear everything that I've got going here to make sure that I'm really clear on what we're doing. All right, so this one, it's a little bit tricky because now you have to, here on the exit ticket, what does plot mean? What does plot mean? Write that down. When it's asking you to plot, I told you that yesterday. What does it mean to plot something? To plot something, it means what? Right? That you. Yes, Jonathan. Yeah, you have to watch that video. Right? You put. Yep. You can put. Plot means to place. Right? Plot means to place. Write that down on your exit ticket. Place, to put. Make a mark. Plot the point. H, and then you got 2.5. All right? 2.5, comma, and 1.5. Okay, so now you know that you're going to try to be finding a half. Well, here they give you the marks. They gave you this, and what you need to do. What you need to do is you need to also, let me brighten it up a bit. I don't know why all right, it's way better. All right, here we go. Way better. Thank you so much. All right, so now here you make that hash mark right there at the 1, even though it's right there at the 2, you make that hash mark. Do it right now. Do it on your exit ticket because I'm going to ask you to send me the exit ticket. Don't answer it just yet, but here is the mark. Now, because it's asking me about the half, and if I look at you want to look at the exit ticket because that's what's going to tell you what you're going to be learning, but it's also going to tell you, that you need to also identify fourths, halves. So, all right, so here they don't tell you, but now you know that you need to make a hash mark, and a hash mark. Here, in between 1 and 2, you have 1.5. Some of you say it's half. No, half is here. Okay, I'm going to use a better fine point because this one is not that fine. So here, and here is 2 1/4, and here is 2 1/2. Write this down right now. And here is 2 3/4. It's a given. It's a given. So here, 1.5. Well, then this must be 1 3/4. quarters. An error that I was seeing is some of you were looking at, oh, this must be 3 1/4. No, no, no. It's before you get to 3. Always know that numbers go from the center to the right, and from the center you can go to the top, right? To the top. That's when we're utilizing graphing, right? Here is the point of origin, and then you go up. Well, here you have the hash mark. It's not, you create that. Create it right now. Follow along, please. Okay? I am adding the hash marks right there. And now, what am I going to do? What I'm going to do, okay, is I am going to, Zoe, make sure that you're writing this down, that you're taking these notes, because I'm going to expect everyone to send me a picture of your notes today. All right? Just of the notes, not of all. Okay, and before noon, send me your work. Okay, so here we go. 1/4, 1/2, 3/4, and then 1. 1 1/4, 1 1/2. Help me, class. 1 what's that number? 3/4, and then 2. And 2 1/4, 2 1/2, and 2 3/4. Do you see that? Now, I made those marks intentionally, even though they weren't given. What is this axis called? What is this axis called? This is an axis. You need to place it. You need to label. This is another axis. This is the right and left. What is this called? What is the name of the axis? Type it in the chat. All right. Well, hey, Mr. Castro, we're taking notes. I know. I know. What is this X? Good. The X axis, and what is this axis called? What is this axis called? Y-axis. Thank you, Edith. Great. All right. Now you're going to start following the instructions. All right, so let's go and plot. We're going to call point H. This right here, I believe, is the L. Okay? So don't try to do this. Just call it line L. Okay? Just go like that. Yeah, just call it line L. All right, so line L passes through point H and is parallel to the y-axis. All right. Well, here is this. This is like, something that you use in the kitchen, right, to measure sometimes, cookies and stuff like that. Well, I'm utilizing it just to kind of show you, right, kind of block things out, right? If I'm asking, well, that doesn't show very well because it's, highlighting. So here's what I'm going to use. All right, so the ruler here. So it says plot the point to H. That's what's on the exit ticket, right? So I want to make sure that your exit ticket is like your daily test. Line L passes through point H and is parallel to the y-axis. The word parallel means that it is either like this or it's like this. Either way. And then construct line M. Here is another line. Line L. Okay, I see what they're saying. Because the line is like this. Yeah, it's lowercase. All right, so that's line L. And then line M, I have to also follow math, right? Math protocol or math specific, right? So line M. So then you're going to call it line, right? Line M, lowercase. You're going to label also line M. Construct line M such that the y-coordinate of every point is 3/4. Well, where is the y-coordinate? All right. So you need to make sure that every point on the coordinate is 3/4. All right. So 3/4. So on the y-coordinate, you're going to find wherever 3/4 is at. Line M is, it is asking you how many units from the x-axis. All right, you have to identify. Give the coordinates of the point on line M that is 1/2 unit from the y-axis. All right, so I'm just going to tell you what that means. So let's say that this is the y-axis, right? Y-axis. And if I put a point here, well, then you have to tell me how far is this distance, right? Distance. It's asking you that, right? From. What is the distance? What is the distance? That's what from means. Okay, from. What is the distance from? Okay, give the coordinates of a point on line M that is 1/2 from y-axis. Okay, and then you put that specific point. With a blue pencil, right? We're going to utilize a blue pencil. We said we're going to be using today a blue pencil. Okay, there's our blue pencil, and we're also going to be needing also a red pencil. Okay, and you're going to shade. Well, shade means you kind of color in lightly, right? Color lightly. And you do the same of the plane that is less than 3/4. All right. So that's that, and then plot the point that lies on the double shaded region. Give the coordinates. All right. So the shaded areas might intersect. They might combine, right? And then that's where you're going to give the coordinates of that point. All right. So that's exit ticket. Exit ticket 6. Now let's do an actual work, right? I just needed to make sure. All right, so let's go for the homework. Let's just go. It says plot and label the following points on the coordinate. Go to this page, please. Go to this page. You right there? Can you guys see that okay? All right, it says plot and label the following points on the coordinate plane. So let's plot point C. Let's start with this one. Okay, so here are the measurements. This seems way easier than putting all that fraction, but you know that 0.5 is the same as half. Okay, and it says 0.4. All right. So here again, what I showed you before, you apply it here. So 0.4, 0.3, 0.2, 0.1, right? It says 0.4. So here you are at 0.4. That's the first coordinate, and this is the x, and then it's the y. So first the x. I go here. It says go 0.4 in the y. Well, here's 0.5. So this is 0.4, 0.3, 0.2, 0.1, and that's it. All right, so then I'm going to go 4 up. 1, 2, 3, 4. But it's not units, it's decimals, right? So there it is. I'm going to call that C, point C. So I've got it. Boom, mark yourself. Give yourself some points if you did that right now. If you're using a regular pencil, that's fine. Yep. All right, so right there. Okay, let's focus. Here we go. All right, let's go with point A. Point A. All right, let's do that. It says 1.1 and 0.4. X, Y. Cool. So this is lesson 6 on the homework. Everyone is on that page? Type on the chat, are you on that page? Lesson 6 on the homework. If you are on that page, say yes. All right. Now, you could tell that the increments, right, the increments, or it's going up by tenths. It's going by tenths. All right, so then if this is 0.5, this must be 0.6. This must be 0.7. You're going to keep on going like this, boys and girls. 0.8, 0.9, and then 1. 1.0, and then is 1.1, and then here's 1.2. Okay, you're going to go on this direction, make the hash mark. Here you got 0.6, you got 0.7, hash mark, 8.9, and then we got 1.0. Here we got, so that's the whole. So we got 1.1. All right. Now it says on the X, 1.1. Well, here's 1, and then we go one more is 1.1. All right. And it says, now the Y, 0.4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to call that point A. Got it? Now, let's find that point. Excellent. Thank you so much, those of you that are answering. Great job. Thank you. All right. So here we go. Now, I'm going to go speed up a bit. All right. So S, go 0.9. First is the X, and then it's the Y. You see that? X, and then the Y. All of that is going to be true. All right. So here we go. 0.9. So we go here. I found the 0.9 and then 5 up. So then I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is 0.5. So right there. And I'm going to call that point S. The next one is T. 0.9. I'm going to go 0.9 and then it says 1.1. So then I go 9. I went on the X and then go up until 1.1. So here's 1, 1.1. All right. So if you did that, give yourself a star. If you did that, give yourself a star. Great job. Excellent. Now, it says use a straight edge to construct line segments CA and ST. That's what it means, a segment. Segment CA. So let's go segment CA. Not a line, but segment. Line segment. So I'm going to just unify, right? And I'm going to use a different color. So those are the points and those are the end points. So I'm just going to do that right there. Boom. All right. So there is CA. Give yourself a star if you did that. Now, use a straight edge to construct line segments. If you don't have a ruler, just use a straight edge. All right, here we go. And I'm going to unify those points. And that's a line segment, right? So this one is CA, segment CA. And this one, oop, I forgot to put T up there. Mr. Castro, you're slipping. All right, boom. There's the T. Now, And so what I'm asking everyone to do is I want you to be more precise. And that's something that we're really looking for in these assignments. All right. So then here is ST, and this means segment. Write that down. If you haven't, write it down. That's how I want to see your work. All right. So give yourself a star. All right. So I constrict the line segments. Name the line segment that is perpendicular to the x-axis. All right. So they told us the x-axis. So identify it there. X-axis. Here's the x-axis, and it goes here, right? So name the line segment that is perpendicular. And when your brain, every time that you hear that, you should be forming this. Perpendicular. Oh, okay. It forms like a cross. All right. So which one is perpendicular? Name the line segment that is perpendicular to x-axis. So here's x-axis. Which one is going to make a cross? Which one? Is it segment CA or is it segment ST? Okay. So TS or ST. Okay, someone's answering. Answer. I have one person that answered. Which segment? Is it CA that's going to be perpendicular? Or is it ST? Answer on the chat. Type on the chat. Which one is it? Name the line segment. Yes, name the line segment that is perpendicular to the x-axis. What do you think it is? Is it CA or is it ST? Write it on the chat. I'm pausing. Yep, write it on the chat. I only see Zoe, that she wrote it. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What's your answer? Well, I know the x-axis is here. All right, so then absolutely, yep, it is segment ST. Now, if you just put ST, that's not enough. You need to make sure that you put that segment. Right? Good job. Well, not in the chat, but on your paper. Good job. Excellent. Now, plot a point on CA and name it E. Okay? I'm going to plot a segment in here and I'm going to call it E. We can just be random. Okay, where should I put it? Where should I put it? Let's just put it here. And we're going to call that E. All right, so there's E. Plot a point on line segment ST and name it R. Okay, I'm going to ST. So this is a different instructions. Plot a point. Okay, plot a point on line segment ST. All right, so I'm just going to put it right here. And I'm going to call that R. See, we're going step by step. All right, I did that. Write the coordinates for point E. Okay, so you could have picked a different point, but you still have to make sure that it's labeled correctly. Well, in my case, I'm looking at E, and it is 0.7, and then the Y coordinate is 0.4. Can you identify on here? What is it? What are the coordinates for point R? What are the coordinates? Type it on the chat. What are the coordinates for point R? And that finishes it up. What are the coordinates for point R? Here's the X, and here's the Y. Type it in the chat. What are the coordinates for X? And we're talking about point R, this one right here. Type it in the chat. What are the coordinates for point R? Okay. Okay, I have to zoom in. So what is the answer? So here's the 9, and I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's 9, 8. Okay, great job, Wendy. Great job, Chris. Yep, it is 9, 8. But it's not just 9, 8, it's point 9 and point 8. Those are the little things that people are doing, and so it needs to be, that's the actual answer. Okay? So correct it. Correct it. Does it make sense why it's not 0.7? Because 0.7 would be down here. So here is 0.8, which is right there. Okay? All right. That's it. Thank you so much. Make that correction. If you made an error, all of this should be nicely done. We completed that one. We have I started at a little bit later, so 10 minutes later. So here it is. Now here's the homework. Thank you, everyone, for keeping participating. That's awesome. You guys are fabulous. All right. And so here it is. So construct line M so that the y-coordinate of every point is 1.5. Construct line M such as that the y-coordinate of every point is 1.5. All right. So now you have this, and again, every graph is a little bit different. This one only has, put the marks, again, put the marks. Right there. And now you know that you go fine, and so here's point, right, 5 or half, because they're using halves. All right, so you want to find, so here's 1.5, right? We're talking about the y-coordinate, so identify the y-coordinate, y-axis. So the y-coordinate of every point is 1.5. All right, so here you go, 1.5. So here's 1.5. I'm going to label that 1 and 1/2. And so construct line M such that the y-coordinate of every point is 1 and 1/2. So here's this. Here's all the different points that are just on y-coordinate. See that? And then we're going to construct a line. It doesn't say line segment, so it needs to just go all the way through. And I'm going to use this. Okay? Line. We're going to call that what? Construct line M. So that's line M. If I make an error, if something's not clear, I ask in the chat, right? That's really important. Line M. Line M. We just constructed line M, and it's on the y. Every point is 1/2. So 1.5, 1.5. All right. Now construct line N such that the x-coordinate of every point is 5.5. So let's go find 5, and here's 5.5. Now start putting little points here, so that you're going to call that line what? Line N. All right. So now you're going to do this. So line N. Write that in. Line N. Okay, we're wrapping this up. We're getting all this done. Thank you so much. So line M, here's line M, is how many units from x-axis? There's half, there's 1. Okay, so the distance from here's x-axis. So from here, what is the distance from here to here? What is that distance? Write it on the chat. What is the distance from line X to line M? Line M is how many units from the x-axis? Write it down. What do you think it is? What do you think the answer is? How many units from the x-axis is line M? This line. I know it's tricky to think. Some of you are still drawing. Answer in the chat. I'm going to extend the conference for 10 more minutes just to make sure that I at least get the homework done with you guys and we're able to do that, okay? So what's the distance? So here's half, here's 1, and here's 1 1/2. Do you see that? No one answered, so it must be kind of puzzling. So 1 1/2 units from the x-axis. Here's the x-axis, so that line is all the way through. Here is 1, okay, half, 1 1/2. So here is the same distance. That means that this line is parallel to x and is 1 1/2, right? 1 1/2 units. Write that down. That's important. Now, let's go. Give the coordinates of the point on line M. On line M, here's line M. That is 2 units from the y-axis. 2 units from the y-axis. So you want to still be which point of little red marks. I'm going to go in a little bit more so you can see. Which of those little points is 2 units from the y-axis? Here's the y-axis, 2 units. Okay, so you got 1 unit, 2 units, and then you go up. Give the coordinates. So what are the coordinates? Here's the 2. So what are the coordinates? All right, so then help me create the coordinates. Everyone, stop what you're doing. This point right here, this point, it's a new point that I just created. What are the coordinates? Write it on the chat. Some of you might be tuning me out. Write it on the chat. What are the coordinates for that point right there? I'm going to write it on the graph itself. And then I know that there's a comma right there. I don't see anyone typing. So I go, okay, so here's 1, and here's 2. So then on the x is 2, and on the y is what? No one's typing. That means that this is kind of starting to be a little bit puzzling. So 1 1/2. 1 and 1 1/2. That's the answer. So then give the coordinates. All right, so then the coordinates are 2, 1 1/2. Now, with a blue pencil, shade the portion of the grid that is less than half. 1 1/2 from the y-axis. Less than, okay, so I'm going to shade with a blue pencil the coordinates. I'm going to use a lighter blue. less than 1.5. So here's 1.5. Anything less than 1.5, I'm going to label it blue. This is what it should look like, and your exit ticket should be kind of similar to this. That's why that's why I'm taking as much time as we need to. I'm going to shade this, all of this. And it's just important that you do your best work. And then you be patient. Thank you. Be patient. Keep on being patient. Great job. All right. So we did that. All right. Boom. Give yourself a star if you highlighted that. Blue. Now, line N is how many units from the y-axis? Line N is how many units? Well, let's count. Here's line N. Here it is. Here's line N. See that? All right, so then let's measure. So we got, all right, so line N is, let's count. Line N is 1, 2, no, we can't go just with one, it's half. It's going in half increments. So then you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's 5.5. 5.5, right? So what is the distance from here to line N? It should be 5.5. That's the distance. All right, so it's right there. Give the coordinates of the point on line N that is 3.5 from the y-axis. Okay, so here's, x-axis. Here's the x-axis, and the point has to be somewhere on this line N. But it has to be 3.5, all right? So here's 1, here's 2, here's 3. But, right, on the, from, 3.5 from the x-axis. So, all right, so then from here to here is 3.5. All right, so there is the point. And then give the coordinates for that point. So I'm going to say that the coordinates for that point is, on the x is 5.5, and on the y is 3.5. Whoa, made an error. It says 3.5, Mr. Castro. That's 3. There's 1, 2, 3, but it's 3.5. I made an error. We can all make an error. It's okay. All right, just correct it. There we go. So 3.5. So this is the point, not this one. This one was incorrect. This is 3.5. How do I know? It's right here. 3.5. So from the x, right? So here's the x, 3.5. So then those are the coordinates. Write that down. So the coordinates are 5.5, comma, 3.5, and then close the parentheses. With a red pencil, here's where we're finishing up. Thank you so much for sticking this through. With a red pencil, shade the portion of the grid that is less than 5.5. So less than 5.5 is all of this area, right? So we're going to shade it red. So let's do that. Okay, so I just shade. I'm doing that. I'm shading lightly, right? Don't just go all. That way you can see the numbers still, and that's why this work. Okay, so here I'm going to shade carefully, right? Just going to shade carefully, and so you have all the measurements that are less than 5.5 is red, and then so we've got that done now. So all this is like double colored. You see that? So there's a part that's only red, and there's a part that's only blue, and there's a part that's red and blue. So with a red pencil, shade the portion that is on the y-axis. So we got that done. Boom. Boys and girls, we are done. We are done. We are done. Excellent job. So now what's pending, so we got all this done. So now you do this part of homework, which is a different region. Just make sure that it's all nicely organized, right? And then you do the exit ticket. So we got pending is this and the exit ticket. Send it to me before noon. Okay, send it to me before noon. That would be important. Send it to me before noon. Okay? And make sure that you have finished your brain pop assignments. You have 2 this week. Make sure that all of that's done, that you watched the video, took the quiz. All right, if you didn't do that well on the quiz, I'm going to put another quiz today. Okay, I'm going to put another quiz on brain pop and make sure that you get done with that quiz. All right, so today is Friday, and it's 10:07. Thank you so much for really doing your best. I am going to be making phone calls and congratulating those of you that are doing really awesome, that you guys are turning in your work. Some of you will also get a call from the students that are not turning in their work. You're here, but there's something not clicking just right, because some of you are not turning in your work, and that's a problem, right? Send it to me directly. Your parents have my number, so please make sure that you guys get that done, all right? Nos estamos viendo. Excellent. Thank you so much for yesterday recommending me some wonderful things. I'm going to take the chat off. All right. Okay, para que se despidan, que pasen un día fenomenal. Despídense, muchachos, muchachas. Gracias por estar poniendo atención. You guys are awesome. De veras que sí, muchas gracias. Si se quieren despedir, hasta luego. Chris, gracias. Thank you, Wendy. Nos estamos viendo.
Bye.
Hasta luego, Araceli. Bye. ¿Quién dijo bye? ¿Quién dijo bye?
Bye.
Bye. Excelente, gracias. Gracias por poner mucha atención. Nos estamos viendo, Siri y Aida. Gracias.
Bye.
All right. Bye.